Good morning. I got the signal. I'm live. Yes, I am. I'm live. Not only am I live, I'm alive, which is a great thing to be. Uh, uh, Great. It is great to be alive, and it's a great day, even though it's kind of miserable weather-wise. It's definitely not my favorite time of year. I love summer. I love summer. I'm Brian. I'm the pastor here at Christ United Methodist Church, and that's just one of those things. If you don't know about me before, you know now. I love summer. I can't wait even just for the temperatures to start to go up. Um, Figure hope maybe next month, like the end of next month, I can pull out my Hawaiian shirts and start wearing them again. Even if the temperatures don't work, I'll just wear them over top of something long sleeve if I need to. Got to get into my Hawaiian shirts again. People ask me why do I wear Hawaiian shirts, and it's for me they're very comfortable, especially the good ones made out of nice cotton. They're nice and breathable. And I love the patterns. I love the patterns and the bright colors. Hawaiian shirts typically have nice bright colors, and I like that about them. Um, in case you didn't know it, I'm loud. I have a loud personality and I wear loud clothing. So anyway, good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you for joining me today. I already see some folks putting that on there. Hi, it's warm here. Yeah, Maureen, thanks for the reminder. Down at probably, I believe, in Florida right now, which is good for you. Good for you. Good morning, Pat. Good morning to you. And Ron is joining us. He sends me texts. Good morning, all. He said, good morning. So great to have you folks with us today. And I'm sure more will be joining as we go along. So again, feel free to do that. Ooh. Tell me you're there, because I don't always see that. I don't know how many people are watching. Later on, I can go in and look and see, but I can only see numbers. I can't see who. So if you want to just let me know that you're there, say hello, say good morning. Good morning, Cindy. Good morning, Marcia. All right. And you can say hello to each other at the same time. You can also use that function, the comments stream, to ask me questions or to share comments and stuff like that. Or you can do that by texting me, 570-351-1619. Ron actually had sent me a question related to yesterday's reading, to chapter 24, where Felix put Paul back in prison, but he told the guards to, give him some freedoms, And he said, was that kind of like house arrest? I said, no, not quite like house arrest. But the best comparison I could make for our 21st century eyes and ears on that, our 21st century minds, would be how some prisoners get privileges based on like good behavior. So they're allowed extra time outside. They're allowed to whatever. They're allowed privileges. They're allowed a little bit more freedom, still within the prison. And that would be kind of the thing with Paul. What would that look like? Maybe he wasn't put in chains all the time while he was there in that prison. So he was given, maybe he was given an extra blanket. Who knows? But so he was given some. He was a prisoner with privileges. I think they call those in some situations anyway. Currently, they call those trustees at prisons. They're prisoners that have a little bit of benefits and are sometimes put in charge of other prisoners. So that's probably a better description of Paul's situation. I noticed yesterday that Colleen, hi Colleen, you're probably joining us later, which is fine. You watch. I love that we're able to do this and people can watch anytime they want, which is really cool. And so Colleen had made a couple comments, chuckles about what her translation said on a couple verses. And Colleen, you're using the Message, which is cool. Folks, if you're not familiar with the Message, it's Eugene Peterson wrote it. And it is a paraphrase, which that's just an important thing to keep in mind when you do it. It can be fun. It can be fun to read the Message, and if using it on daily readings, working your way through the Bible, nothing wrong with it. I sometimes we'll go to the Message just to see how he puts something, and I have used it in worship from time to time. don't really have any intention in the next couple weeks because I'm trying to strictly use the NLT, New Living Translation, for my stuff. But who knows, I might change my mind. The only thing to remember about the message is that it is a paraphrase. And the thing with any paraphrase, by definition, that means that it's not, it's not a literal translation. It means it's my words. In the case of the message, it's Eugene Peterson's words. And that man, God bless Pastor Peterson, and God rest his soul. I am sure that he was welcomed by God with those amazing words, "Well done, good and faithful servant." He had a wonderful way of telling stories, and that's exactly what he did with his translation of the Bible. He used his gift of storytelling to truly make things interesting, especially things that in some cases aren't very interesting. So that's the only thing to remember. He uses his words on a lot of things, and sometimes it does make you chuckle. So I'm glad that you had that experience yesterday, Colleen. So that's enough talking for this morning as far as like preview, prelim, all that kind of stuff. We're gonna go to chapter 25. Not a very long chapter. It's a mid-size chapter, and I've got some stuff to talk about. Hopefully not too much. Hopefully not too much to tell you this morning. Don't want to keep you too long. Anyway, remember Felix had, even though Paul was in prison for 2 years, which was supposed to be the limit for a Roman citizen, without having their their case decided one way or another, Felix kept him in prison as he was heading out the door and passed things off to Festus. And it was done as a favor to the Jews, or because of a favor of the Jews. So either in hopes that something was going to happen, or in payment for something that already did happen, or because they bribed them. We can look at it from a couple different points of view. So 3 days after Festus arrived in Caesarea to take over his new responsibilities, he left for Jerusalem. Kind of right on top of things here, right? It only took 3 days. He's just starting his governorship, and only 3 days in, he's hitting the ground running. Where the leading priests and other Jewish leaders met with him and made their accusations against Paul. They asked Festus, as a favor, to transfer Paul to Jerusalem, planning to ambush and kill him on the way. But Festus replied that Paul was at Caesarea, and he himself would be returning there soon. Even though Luke doesn't say it, we're sure that Festus must have known that Paul was a Roman citizen by this point too. Maybe Felix told him. If nothing else, I'm sure it was in the files, so to speak. So he said, "Those of you in authority can return with me. If Paul has done anything wrong, you can make your accusations." About 8 or 10 days later, Festus returned to Caesarea, and on the following day, he took his seat in court and ordered that Paul be brought in. So just pause. Again, Luke is showing a pretty strict timeline here. He's saying Festus didn't dilly-dally in Jerusalem. Well, I mean, as I said, he only had 3 days up in Caesarea right after he started things. And maybe it's because of the Paul problem. He knows how important Jerusalem is. Jerusalem is the other big city in Palestine, in his territory. So he's going to be spending time in Jerusalem anyway. And he wants to get down there and touch base with people. Goes right in, starts talking to them. He already is aware of Paul, at least to some extent. So Festus may have been fairly quick, fairly right on top of things. Didn't waste a whole lot of time in Jerusalem. He's there 8 or 10 days, which when you're new in town, you got a lot of people to talk to. He's not only talking to the religious leaders, he's also talking to political and business leaders as well. Speaking of which, in verse 2, Luke does say that there's more than just priests. There's also other Jewish leaders, and the Greek term that Greek wording that he uses would indicate those same things. political and business. So apparently the Paul problem in Jerusalem is now affecting business and political leaders. The Jewish leaders, in particular the Sadducees, most likely, they've had 2 years to build up support for their charges against Paul, and they have apparently been able to turn government officials and business leaders their way. So anyway, he's only been there for 8 or 10 days, heads back up to Caesarea, and the very next day takes his seat. Very next day takes his seat and has Paul brought in. When Paul arrived, the Jewish leaders from Jerusalem, again probably a mix, gathered round and made many serious accusations they couldn't prove. Paul denied the charges. I am not guilty of any crime against the Jewish laws or the temple or the Roman government, he said. Pause. We remember one of the most serious, the most serious charge, especially from a Roman's point of view, that had been levied against Paul was that of sedition. So he's making it very clear, I have not done it. Many translations actually will say, might say emperor at that point, or imperial government, that kind of thing. But the Roman government, he's saying right off the bat, this is the most serious charge anybody's put against me, and he specifically mentions it, even though it hasn't been mentioned here, and even in the other charges, they didn't say that he did, but their charges of sedition could be considered that, so Paul's making everything clear. He's probably also making things clear as far as his request that's going to come up in a few verses. Then Festus, wanting to please the Jews, asked him, "Are you willing to go to Jerusalem and stand trial before me there?" But Paul replied, "No. This is the official Roman court. So I ought to be tried right here. You know very well I am not guilty of harming the Jews. If I have done something worthy of death, I don't refuse to die. But if I am innocent, no one has a right to appeal to me over to thee. No one has a right to turn me over to these men to kill me. I appeal to Caesar." Pause. So Festus, again, it says, Luke does not like Roman officials. Look, can we just say that and be blunt about it? Yeah, I mean, he has never put any of the Roman governmental officials in any kind of good light at all. Just once in a while, as far as somewhat following the rules, protecting Paul because he's a Roman citizen. But multiple times he's talking about them seeking favor with the Jews, and in which case was probably Jewish leaders, and yes, most likely the Sadducees sect, because they were Roman affiliated, so to speak. They were Roman sympathizers. So he keeps using that expression that it's a favor, it's a favor, it's a favor. So he's calling each of them corrupt in some way, shape, or form. And so again, he wants to please the Jews. He wants to give them a favor. Are you willing to go to Jerusalem? But Paul is very well aware of what the Roman law was. And Roman law is, you're supposed to decide this now. You're supposed to decide this now. And you're supposed to do it here. You're supposed to do it here and now. This is the place of your authority. This is where the court is. This is what you're supposed to do. And he points back at it. You know well. So he's pointing right back at Festus. You know it. You know it. And he says, I appeal to Caesar. Although we're not 100% sure of the time, like exactly what year this took place. Best guesses put it under the reign of Nero. Under the reign of Nero. That's probably the Caesar to whom he would be appealing his case. Festus conferred with his advisors, probably not to help acquire a decision, but to get the wording of his statement proper. And then replied, "Very well. You have appealed to Caesar, and to Caesar you will go." A few days later, King Agrippa arrived with his sister Bernice to pay their respects to Festus. Pause. King Agrippa and his sister Bernice would have come from the same family as Herod and Herod Agrippa. And they would have been the quasi king and queen, you might almost say, of Palestine and of Judea, being given permission by the Romans to be figureheads, although Rome really had all the power anyway. But because of their places, they weren't fully Jewish. You might call them like a secular Jew. They were secular Jews, but they should be very well informed on Jewish law. They should already know some of the details that they're going to be talking about. They should have heard about Jesus by now and about the sect of the Way. So they should be aware of all this. They're also charged with control of the priests and the temple, or care of. Shouldn't say charge of, but care of the priests and the temple would have been some of their stuff. During their stay of several days, Festus discussed Paul's case with the king. "There is a prisoner here," he told him, "whose case was left for me by Felix. When I was in Jerusalem, the leading priests and Jewish elders pressed charges against him and asked me to condemn him. I pointed out to them that Roman law does not convict people without a trial. They must be given an opportunity to confront their accusers and defend themselves. When his accusers came here for the trial, I didn't delay." He's really defending himself. "I called the case the very next day, ordered Paul be brought in. But the accusations made against him weren't any of the crimes I expected. Instead, it was something about their religion and a dead man named Jesus who Paul insists is alive. I was at a loss to know how to investigate these things. So I asked him whether he would be willing to stand trial on these charges in Jerusalem. But Paul appealed to have his case decided by the emperor. So I ordered that he be held in custody until I could arrange to send him to Caesar. I'd like to hear the man myself," Agrippa said. And Festus replied, "You will. Tomorrow." Tomorrow. Pause. Now, Agrippa, again, probably already knew something about Paul. He couldn't have heard nothing about the guy. Oh, Marilyn. Good morning. Good to see you, Marilyn. He probably heard about Paul, knew something about Paul. So we could read in that sentence his thing, "I'd like to hear the man myself." Could be that he was, agreeing with Festus's request, or it could be more of a personal desire. I want to hear from him. I want to hear from him, which kind of echoes Luke's in Luke when Herod said that about Jesus. I want to meet that guy. I want to hear him. So there's almost an echo of that. Again, one more way, perhaps anyway, of Luke saying Paul is a prophet like Jesus. Prophet like Jesus. So, continuing, verse 23. So the next day, Agrippa and Bernice arrived at the auditorium with great pomp, accompanied by military officers and prominent men of the city, probably only about 5. Festus ordered that Paul be brought in. Then Festus said, "King Agrippa, and all who are here, this is the man whose death is demanded by all the Jews, both here and in Jerusalem. But in my opinion, he has done nothing deserving death. However, since he appealed his case to the emperor, I have decided to send him to Rome." Pause. Either Festus is using hyperbole when he's talking about all the Jews, both here and Jerusalem, or he's just maybe he's parroting what he's been told by some of the religious leaders, saying all the Jews are against this guy, when we No, we're kind of on the in on this. We know that that's not the case. It's only a certain number of them who are and who have been. Continuing, but what shall I write the emperor? For there is no clear charge against him. Got to have a clear charge. Can't send him with a whole bunch of random facts or accusations. What are the charges? So I brought him before all of you, and especially you, King Agrippa, so that after we examine him, I might have something to write. For it makes no sense to send a prisoner to the emperor without specifying the charges against him. End chapter. So Festus, in this last little paragraph, gives his whole reasoning behind why he wants this presentation before Agrippa. There's a couple things. We can see it as him kind of casting off his responsibility, but that's not really the case. I don't think that's the case. He knows that he's the boss. He knows that he's in charge. Agrippa is not. Agrippa is a figurehead for a certain section of his territory, and he does not have any real power. So I don't think that's why Festus is doing that, and I don't see that in that statement. Festus admits that he has limited knowledge and understanding of some of these laws and Jewish laws, some of these things that people keep bringing up and accusing Paul of. So he wants to understand that. But here's the big one. Because he knows what he's going to do. He's got no choice. Paul has requested to be judged by the emperor. He's currying favor. I don't think so, Cheryl. I mean, that could certainly be. Yeah, he's new and he wants to be friendly with him, but there's not really any favor from Agrippa, because Agrippa doesn't have any real power. I think what it is, it's concern for himself before the emperor. If he sends Paul to Rome, which is what he's going to do, and he knows it's what he's going to do, it's what he has to do. If he sends Paul to the emperor without clear charges, he is going to be the one that gets in trouble. He could potentially, if nothing else, lose his governorship. He could lose his life. He could lose all kinds of things by wasting the emperor's time, by not giving him a clear charge or set of charges, well written out, well stated, exactly what the charges are, and sending that to Rome. I think that's the big reason for this presentation. And for bringing him here. He wants more information. He wants to understand what these charges are. He wants to gain some knowledge about this Jewish law, and all for self-preservation. He doesn't want to look like a fool before the emperor and then suffer the consequences of that happening. All right. So anyway, I know that's kind of a weird place to end, right? Paul's just about to say something. Yeah, well, we got to wait for that for tomorrow. And only a little bit left to go, right? Because that was chapter 25. We've got 26, 27, and 28. Woo! Yeah, I'm right. Three more chapters to go. Today is Tuesday, right? So that means Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now, so tomorrow's will be live here at 9 o'clock, unless something happens that I'm unaware of. But here's the plan. Let me put it that way. The plan is this, that tomorrow's will be live right here at 9 o'clock. Thursdays, I will pre-record. So tomorrow afternoon, I will be pre-recording chapter 27, and it will be available at 9 o'clock. So anytime after 9 o'clock, you'll be able to watch it whatever time you want Thursday. Anytime after 9, that's when it will be available here. That's because the bishop is having a communion service for clergy. And requested my presence. And when the bishop requests your presence, it's a good thing to go, even though it's online, right? And Friday, even though Friday is typically my Sabbath day, since it is our last video, I did want to do that one live. So I will be that one planned currently. Again, this is the plan. That one will be live at 9 o'clock on Friday. Well, my friends, again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for your words. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for your love and service of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I pray that this time has been beneficial, that you've learned something, that you've benefited in some way from my words, that God has spoken to you through them. I encourage you to keep your eyes and ears, your spiritual eyes and ears open to what God has for you today, what kind of ways God is going to be blessing you today. And I know that's going to happen. I believe that that is going to happen. Keep those spiritual eyes and ears open for God's activity in your life and in the lives of those around you and the life of this world. And when you see it, thank God, and then share that. Let others know that you did. All right, friends. Thank you. Have a blessed day.